dilutes the voting power of black Alabamans. The court also said it saw little reason to give Alabama Republicans a third chance to mess things up and instead appointed a special master to draw a new map ahead of next year's election. In today's ruling, the panel writes, and I'm quoting, "The law requires the creation of an additional district that affords black Alabamians, like everyone else, a fair and reasonable opportunity to elect candidates of their choice. The 2023 plan plainly fails to do so. While more than a quarter of Alabama's residents are black, the latest Republican map, which was passed in July, only one of the state's 7 congressional districts is majority black." The Senate is back in session today after both houses of Congress took the entire month of August off. The House is set to reconvene next week. Once the Republican-led body returns to Capitol Hill, lawmakers will have 11 days to either kick the country's economic can down the road or come up with a long-term funding plan and avoid a government shutdown. House Republicans are also expected to consider a measure to move forward with an impeachment inquiry against President Joe Biden. At least one House Republican is already on record saying she'll withhold her vote on the budget if there is no movement on an impeachment inquiry into the current president. The inquiry would simply be the first step towards bringing actual articles of impeachment that might have a chance of gaining some traction. First Lady Joe Biden is the latest high-profile American to test positive for COVID-19. President Biden's results are reportedly negative so far. Mrs. Biden is reportedly recovering at the couple's home in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, for the time being. In the meantime, former chief medical advisor to the president, Dr. Anthony Fauci, is continuing to push the efficacy of masks, even when confronted by evidence to the contrary from Oxford epidemiologist Tom Jefferson.
There is just no evidence that masks, make any difference, he told the journalist Mayan Damasi, full stop. But wait, hold on. What about the N95 masks as opposed to the lower quality surgical or cloth masks? Makes no difference. None of it, he said.
When you're talking about the effect on the epidemic or the pandemic as a whole, the data are less strong. But when you talk about as an individual basis of someone protecting themselves or protecting themselves from spreading it to others, there's no doubt that there are many studies that show that there is an advantage.
As the narrative continues, despite contradictory evidence, a number of cities are already starting to impose mask mandates. That's something you'll likely see in the coming weeks and months. In the meantime, it is trial day for former Trump advisor Peter Navarro. He'll answer to a judge on 2 misdemeanor counts of contempt of Congress today for refusing to testify and provide documents during the special congressional investigation into the happenings of January 6th. Navarro is pleading not guilty. Jury selection in the case is underway right now, but there's no word how long that might take or when opening statements will happen. Navarro says his refusal to testify and provide documents is the result of President Trump's invocation of executive privilege, which shields certain White House communications from disclosure. Even without Navarro's testimony and documentation, though, the Justice Department has moved forward with J6-related charges against President Trump. Well, don't be surprised if the price of new American-made cars jumps significantly in the next few months. Here's one reason why it could happen. The United Auto Workers Union is demanding a 46% pay raise and a 32-hour work week with 40 hours of pay. Plus, the union wants a restoration of traditional pensions. Even the UAW's president calls the rank and file's demands, quote, audacious. However, General Motors, Stellantis, and Ford are inching closer and closer to seeing workers walk off the job as their contract is set to end in just 9 days. U.S. automakers argue that the union contract demands are unrealistic at a time of fierce competition from Tesla and lower-wage foreign car companies. However, the major American car companies have still pulled in billions of dollars in profits recently. UAW's president is threatening, quote, "We're going to take action and get it done by any means necessary." Well, that's going to do it for your headlines. As always, we appreciate having you along for the ride. I'm Terrence Bates. We're going to take a quick break, then get you back to your regularly scheduled programming.
The heart of America, I'm Steve Gruber, your soldier of truth, the tip of the spear against socialists. Here ready to fight for you in the foxhole of freedom. And please remember, my friends, remember to think while it's still legal. This is the Steve Gruber Show, and three big things you need to know to start this hour. Number one, in Michigan, a manhunt is on for a man who set several state police cruisers on fire and then shot them with a rifle before leaving the scene. So far, no suspects. Number two, the paranoia is setting in on the left with a slight uptick in COVID cases, as is expected. And I promised you the schools are returning to pointless virtue signaling exercise of forcing kids to wear masks. And number three, could there actually be justice in the future for Hunter Biden? Question of the day. Question of the day. Maybe even justice for the senile old man squatting in the Oval Office. Maybe. Because it seems that way, much to my surprise, and millions of others too, I think. We learned late yesterday that Hunter Biden is going to be indicted before the end of September for a felony gun charge because he lied on a background check, a form that he filled out before buying a handgun, right? All part of several things that have happened recently. First, that positively sweetheart deal put together with federal prosecutors was rejected by the federal judge in the case back in July. Of course, you remember all of that. And after first walking into court thinking all of his sins would be forgiven for tax evasion and that felony gun possession charge, all wrapped up in a near total immunity deal, Hunter left the courtroom with nothing at all. Since then, the federal prosecutor in the case, David Weiss, was elevated, appointed as a special counsel to investigate Hunter Biden. And most of us, me included, thought, well, that was the end of it. Weiss, the federal prosecutor from Delaware, would just hide behind the ongoing investigation curtain, and nothing would ever happen to the chronic drug and alcohol abuser who's also accused of not paying millions in taxes, registering as a foreign agent. He failed to do that, or even accusations of sex with underage girls and human trafficking for sex. But I was wrong, and so were you, it seems. You were wrong. Admit it. Because Weiss told U.S. District Judge Marion Noriega that he expects Hunter to be indicted at least on the gun charge later this month. Well, miracles never cease. The investigation into Hunter is now expanding, and no one knows quite where it's going. Listen.
Well, and there is the question about whether this investigation would broaden further or whether there are other potential crimes that are now back on the table. You know, they brought up the potential, foreign agent dealing. So, look, Hunter Biden now has a host of problems that he didn't have or didn't think he had a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. It was certainly something most of us were not anticipating. In fact, most of the talking heads on the numerous left-leaning cable networks spent a lot of time rationalizing the entire matter, dismissing the seriousness of violating gun laws or not paying millions in taxes, and he was only being targeted because he was the son of Joe Biden and all this nonsense, and he was being treated unfairly. When we all know damn well that if we had committed the same acts, we would have been in prison long ago. We probably would have already served our sentence and been released. And the news that Hunter Biden may actually face consequences for committing crimes shocked CNN and all the rest. Here's Wolf Blitzer screaming about it, because Wolf always yells. Listen.
And there's more breaking news just coming into CNN right now. The special counsel, David Weiss, intends to seek an indictment against Hunter Biden relating to gun charges by the end of the month. That according to a new court filing. Biden had previously reached a deal involving a gun possession charge that would have allowed him to avoid prosecution if he met certain conditions over a 24-month period. Once his plea deal, though, fell apart in court, the future of the gun deal has been in limbo.
Yeah, the gun deal has been in limbo. Well, it apparently isn't in limbo anymore. And color me shocked. Color me shocked. So just a few weeks ago, the White House, including President Joe Biden and the entire administration, thought they had cleaned up the whole Hunter Biden mess. But today, it's not only not cleaned up, it's possibly expanding and exposing the president to even more scrutiny, legal scrutiny. At a time when his poll numbers are already in the toilet and the calls for him to step aside because of other issues like age and his general lack of competence, those calls were already getting louder. There's no doubt that this latest public relations problem will inflict even more political damage on the most unpopular president in modern times. So now we have to wonder, is David Weiss going to use his newly minted powers of special counsel to defy Attorney General Merrick Garland's unwritten wishes to keep the Hunter Biden story out of the headlines and do what an honest prosecutor would do? And that's actually follow the facts, even if those facts lead you directly to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. It's an open question right now. James Comer, he's been investigating the Biden crime family and reacted this way over the news Hunter will finally be indicted for a felony. Listen.
Well, it's obvious Hunter Biden's committed about a dozen crimes. That was in the correspondence we sent to the judge, and she started rattling off the first two. The most obvious are the violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act and simple tax evasion. And the two IRS whistleblowers in their committee hearing testified to the numerous counts of tax evasion. So I'm not surprised that he should be indicted. Now, I'm proceeding with caution with David Weiss, but I'll say this. This is an opportunity for David Weiss to clear his good name. This is an opportunity for him to do the right thing. I mean, it's obvious. I've said from day one that investigating the Bidens is like tracking a bleeding bear through a snowstorm. There's evidence everywhere. So this is the obvious thing that a special counsel should do, and let's see how it plays out.
Well, this one.
A bleeding bear through a snowstorm. Well, there's evidence everywhere, but it's not completely obvious all the time. With the American people already disenchanted over the economy and the literal invasion of the southern border, there's no doubt that more questions about the Biden family getting tens of millions of dollars from various foreign countries, including China, Russia, Ukraine, and Romania, will lead to even more damaging headlines and even lower poll numbers. And that all may be on the way. This is pretty important. But there's more. New emails will demonstrate Joe Biden was very involved with Hunter Biden's business dealings. So says James Comer. Quickly, listen to this.
Well, the archives is saying that because it happened during the Obama administration, that Barack Obama will have 30 days to review all 5,400 of these emails in the pseudonyms. And then he will decide whether or not he's going to turn it over to the House Oversight Committee. So your guess is as good as mine. But at the end of the day, we believe that many of these that were using the pseudonyms also had redactions that pertain to things about Hunter Biden, even redacting the fact that he was copied on these. So what Joe Biden's always said and the mainstream media has always gone along with is that, well, there was why are you investigating Hunter Biden? He wasn't a part of the government. And Joe Biden had a firewall between the government and his son. That's not true. We've proven that in the last 2 weeks. There are emails that went back and forth where Hunter's legal team was telling Joe Biden how to spin the narrative about the corruption he got caught in. There was copies where he was copied about Ukraine foreign policy. And we believe there are many more emails that the National Archives is sitting on.
Well, there you go. More emails, more correspondence, more direct conversations between then Vice President Joe Biden and his son, who is about to be indicted. Trust me, the headlines are getting worse. We've got more on this straight ahead. Don't go anywhere. Good morning. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Some of the latest polls here. The Morning Consult this came out yesterday, has Joe Biden up by 3 points nationally. It's a garbage poll, 44-41. It's not that big a spread. Economist YouGov has Trump +1. The Wall Street Journal has them tied. Emerson has Trump +2. Harris X poll has Biden +1. The New York Post, Trump +3. So you put that all together, anyhow, the average that they put together has Joe Biden up less than a point nationally. But you look at all these things coming down now. Hunter Biden being indicted. Is Hunter Biden going to be arrested, and is Hunter Biden going to get a mugshot? If he does, I bet it's on T-shirts too, but for a different reason. And all of this is happening, but at least Joe is jovial and ignoring his own rules for COVID. We're going to talk about that at length today. These new COVID mandates coming back, forcing school kids to wear masks and so forth. So here's Joe. He walks into an event yesterday where he's speaking. Listen to this.
As I've said in the last 2 years, please wear a mask. If you're in I think it's part of your patriotic duties.
I've been tested again today. I'm clear across the board. But they keep telling me because this has to be 10 days or something, I got to keep wearing it. But don't tell them I didn't have it on when I walked in.
So there you have it. Joe Biden lecturing us about wearing a mask some months ago. And then he walks into the event with no mask on, even though his wife, the First Lady, currently has COVID. Dishonest Joe says he's supposed to wear a mask, but of course he doesn't. His wife has it. He doesn't. Nobody cares. I mean, it's not like these people follow the rules anyway. So why wear the mask? However, this further raises the question about, will Joe Biden stay in the race for president? All of this does. Like I said, many Democrats are already over the antics and really the arrogance of the old man in his anger. And the questions from the press, that same press that slept through the 2020 election, are actually starting to hit home. And these questions will only get louder and more frequent, especially after an indictment against Hunter is handed down, which apparently will happen before the end of September. I mean, the Republicans have already asked for all the documents that led to that disqualified plea deal that would have let the first son skate without so much as 1 day in jail. Who was involved with that? Lots of us would like to know who was involved with that. And those are big questions that even the lapdog media can't ignore any further. But trust me, the White House will continue to ignore them as long as possible. The connection between Hunter and his dad is all that dirty dealing. Still not up for discussion. Not with Karine. Listen.
The letter cites the email traffic between Kate Bedingfield and Eric Schwerwin, who's a longtime Hunter Biden business associate, in which Bedingfield signed off on quotes that should be used to respond to media inquiries about Hunter's involvement in Burisma. How do you respond to criticism that shows there was no wall between then Vice President Biden's work and his family's business dealings?
I understand the question. I appreciate the question. I get the question. I'm just going to let the White House counsel team answer that question.
Yeah. by the way, this is the last place Democrats want to find themselves as they sit down for Thanksgiving dinner, open presents on Christmas morning, or celebrate New Year's. Republicans, on the other hand, would be very thankful, feel like they'd gotten a huge gift, and ring in the new year with glee. And the reason is obvious. It really is. Just remember, if Joe Biden is run out of town, what do you get, Democrats? You get Kamala Harris as president. How dangerous. Here she is being intellectual again. Yesterday. Madam Vice President?
I feel very strongly about the importance as a general matter of engaging in U.S. policy as it relates to foreign affairs in a way that we pay attention, of course, to the immediate concerns and threats if they exist, but that we also pay attention to 10, 20, 30 years down the line and what we are developing now that will be to the benefit of our country then.
Wow. She's just one faint, feeble heartbeat away from being in the Oval Office herself. So Democrats, here's where you are. You've got a special counsel who is no longer shackled by Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, right? You got that. And you've got an investigation that's going to yield at least one indictment pretty quickly since that elevation of status was announced. What else is out there? Is David Weiss actually going to go after Hunter Biden on other issues? There's a brand new story from John Solomon at Just the News showing that Goldman Sachs had a whistleblower all the way back in 2015 from an investigation in 2014. The whole thing is right there. It's a PowerPoint, if you will, about the misdeeds of Hunter Biden. Lays it all out. So this has been going on for a decade. And don't forget, if you go back even before that, back to about 2008, Hunter Biden was caught up in a deal where a bunch of investors had lost millions of dollars in some fraudulent scheme. This is not new. This has been going on for decades in the Biden family. It just became very powerful when he became vice president. That's when they ramped up the money-making fraud machine. They're grifters. They are grifters. That's who they are. But at least we get Kamala Harris to comment. This is going to be very damaging to the White House. All right, still to come today. Alfredo Ortiz, president and CEO of the Job Creators Network. Voters think the economy is going in the wrong direction. You're right about that. And William Widener will be here. Culture and the Constitution. We'll talk about that today. It's all straight ahead. Don't miss any of it. Well, Mr. Producer here was pretty stunned as he saw these headlines again. I mentioned to me before we went on the air, I can't believe they're bringing back this mask nonsense for schools and for kids. Yeah, just in time for the election year, the masks are back. A slew of schools across this country reinstating mask mandates amid a small increase in positive COVID cases. The problem is every single study with any credibility at all shows exactly what I told you and argued with some doctors about myself way back in 2020. Yeah, it was a con job then. It's a con job now. Masks don't work, but they're forcing people to wear them anyway. It's for show. You know, back in the day when you had a car that, you know, was pretty but didn't do anything, all show and no go. That is what these mask mandates are, all show and no go. You know, schools in Alabama, Maryland, New York, trust me. Anybody shows up with the idea of telling my kids that this is what we're doing, yeah, that's not going to fly. That's not going to fly around here because I'll go to school and say, yeah, not happening. Not happening. Let's see. Quick message from one of our sponsors. Vladimir Putin called the U.S. dollar's drop in dominance objective and irreversible during the recent BRICS summit. It happened in South Africa. That country, along with Brazil, Russia, India, and China, formally agreed to use local currencies instead of the U.S. dollar. It's the first shoe to fall as demand for the dollar weakens. The buying power of the dollar weakens, and that's why Birch Gold Group is busier than ever. Investors and savers are looking to harness the power of physical gold held in a tax-sheltered IRA. Text Gruber to 989898 for your free information kit on gold. Thousands of happy customers, an A-plus rating with a Better Business Bureau, and countless 5-star reviews. You can count on Birch Gold to help you navigate transitioning an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. As the U.S. dollar continues to receive pressure from foreign countries, digital currency, and central banks, arm yourself with information. Get the information on how to protect your savings. Again, text Gruber to 989898 to claim your free information kit. All right? Or Alfredo Ortiz from the Job Creators Network up next. The economy heading in the wrong direction? You think? We'll be back. Mark, well, I was watching Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday, and she stood at the podium and said, well, gas prices are down $1.40 since the peak a year ago. No, gas prices are more expensive today than they were a year ago by a few pennies. Crowding $4 a gallon in most states. You've got 8 states where gas is above, let's make that 9 states, where gas is above $4 a gallon. Well, inflation's only 3% though, Steve. Yeah, but it's also cumulative, meaning everything costs 17 or 20% more than it did when Joe Biden fell asleep for the first time in the Oval Office. I mean, Americans are not stupid. They know things got more expensive. We have $1 trillion in credit card debt, $17 trillion in consumer debt overall. It doesn't get any better. Joining me is Alfredo Ortiz, the president and CEO of the Job Creators Network. Alfredo, thank you for being here.
Good morning, Steve. Thank you for having me.
And people get it. So there's this brand new poll from the Wall Street Journal, and it shows voters think the economy is heading in the wrong direction. Well, why wouldn't they feel that way after the things that I just mentioned?
Absolutely. My favorite word, Steve, it's the economy stupid. I mean, I am sorry. The American public is not stupid. They get it. They feel it every single day. I don't care what fancy words Joe Biden or the press secretary are using, saying that, things are going great and they're rosy. The Wall Street Journal poll says a lot there. I mean, 60% of the folks believe that the economy is really going in the wrong direction. Inflation is going in the wrong direction. And quite frankly, our SBIQ, our small business IQ poll, really has been reflecting this all along. And our small business owners, Steve, which is very concerning, are the most pessimistic they have been in over 2 years. And remember, 2/3 of new job growth is in the hands of small businesses. So this does not bode well for Joe Biden.
Well, you watch what happens every single day, Alfredo. You know this. The big multinational global corporations, they get all the favors. They get all the breaks. They get all the opportunities. It's the small business, whether it's one employee or 100, but those small companies that are the backbone of America that take the brunt of the regulations, of the new taxes, of the new, scrutiny all the time. It's the small business guys, the ones that actually create jobs, that get punished the most, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what people have to understand, that, to your point, large businesses do get all the breaks. They're the ones that get favorable pricing, favorable inventories when supplies are low, right? They get forward pricing contracts, right? Volume discounts. I mean, they really are the ones that benefit from all the, from all of that. Small businesses don't. So the small businesses really are subject to what most consumers are feeling right now, which is that inflation, hit. And to your point, and I think we got to make sure we're very clear to people about this. This is cumulative. So when Joe Biden talks about how inflation is slowing down, okay, so that is a good thing, but that doesn't mean it's great. I mean, imagine this, Steve. Imagine if you and I had a friend that was 200 pounds, and then in 1 year they grew, they put on some weight and they're 250 pounds, right? And then they started, after that, maybe only, going about a pound a month or something, and they're celebrating the fact that they're only gaining weight at a pound a month. And I go, yeah, but wait a minute. You already gained 50 pounds to begin with, right? The damage has been done. And that's what's exactly going on with the economy. The damage has been done.
Yeah, so let me just explain to you. As of August, $100 in January 2021, it would take $113 today to have that same purchasing power. But it's disproportionate. If you go to the grocery store, eggs are more expensive. Milk is more expensive. Gasoline, $2.29. I keep telling people this. I wrote that down on January 21st, 2021. I put down a mortgage rate, 2.25%. 2.25% was the mortgage rate in January 21. $2.29 a gallon was the cost of gasoline. And then you look at this push towards green energy, and your electric bill is going up while they want to get rid of your washing machine, your portable generator, your motor car, and everything else. They want to destroy the economy. And talk about small business owners, all those suppliers. I live in Michigan, trust me, there's a lot of small companies that are suppliers to Ford, General Motors, Chrysler. They're all getting, bounced around.
Yeah, they really are. And to your point, I mean, the average consumer is feeling it, at the grocery stores, at the pumps. I mean, my goodness, Steve, I went the other day. I mean, you can't even make yourself a turkey sandwich anymore. I went to Kroger, get myself some deli meat. $15 a pound. I mean, I seriously can't even make myself a turkey sandwich anymore.
Yeah, it's true. You know, I've been talking about this. I'm actually going to make a video of this. I'm going to make this video. I'm going to go to and not picking on McDonald's at all, just to be clear, but I'm going to go to McDonald's. I'm going to buy 4 value meals, as if I'm a family of 4. The dogs will be very happy with me that day. I'm going to go to McDonald's because there's not just feed everybody. It's $35. $35 for 4 value meals at the drive-thru at McDonald's. The average family cannot afford that, sir. They cannot. It's just crushing.
It really is, and it really is everything. I mean, to your point, I mean, groceries are up 20% overall. I mean, inflation really is on a cumulative basis up 16%. You know, gas prices, to your point, 50%. I mean, this is not good, and Bidenomics is not working, no matter what the president wants to say. And the American public is just not stupid. And I think this poll from the Wall Street Journal proves it.
Yeah, and it's almost impossible. Here's something else. Looking for a used car for one of my children recently. A used car, you can't find, under $15,000, you can't find a car that doesn't have over 100,000 miles. I mean, so if you're a family of 4 and you've got a teenager that's now hitting high school, and you've got somebody that's going to work, and so you need a couple of cars in the driveway, it's just backbreaking. So you need a car to go to work for a job that gives you less purchasing power to buy things that are super expensive. What are we going to do, Alfredo? What are we going to do?
Yeah, I mean, used car prices are up 35%. They're up 35%, Steve. I mean, it's ridiculous. Do you know that 20% now of the car loans are over $1,000, Steve? $1,000. I mean, the average American cannot afford this, and you know, hold on. You mean the monthly payment on average now is $1,000 for a vehicle? 20% of the car loans, it's $1,000.
Who can afford? I mean, I guess the 20% on that, but that means the other folks are paying, you know, $500, $600, $800, right? I mean, that's backbreaking. So, and the White House says, well, wages are up. Well, that's true, but purchasing power is down. They forget and neglect that very important point, don't they?
Yep, absolutely. And, you know, you have people out there, for example, the president of Bank of America, you know, is touting, touting that the consumer spending more and things are great and how resilient. Yeah, the consumer's spending more, but getting less. And that's what everybody's feeling, right? Like I said, it's just ridiculous. You can't afford really to just live. And I think people are reflecting that.
And before we go, the day that I heard this, I said it was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard. It was and it is to this day, because what we're talking about here, they have a name for. It's called Bidenomics. Yeah. Bidenomics, and everybody knows it because they went out and they made a point of telling you this is Bidenomics. Yeah, it is, and I don't think it plays well as we go forward. Sir, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, Bidenomics is freakonomics because it's not working. But you know what? I'm so glad that he's decided to take credit for a bad economy.
Yeah, smart move. Smart move. Alfredo Ortiz, president and CEO of the Job Creators Network. Alfredo, as always, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Steve.
Greatly appreciate it. There you have it. I mean, the polling numbers are not wrong. The people get it. Alfredo gets it. I get it. You get it. We all get it. And they're going to get it. Still to come, William Wagner, founder and president of Salt Lake Global, Great Lakes Justice Center. All right, we're going to talk about the football coach that won. He can pray, and, well, then he quit, but we'll tell you about that straight ahead. ladies of the Steve Gruber Show, the people that really run this thing, look, I just sit here and talk. I'm just lens meat, microphone. The people that run this thing, Sarah and Ivy, they line it up. So today, to discuss the Constitution and the culture, William Wagner, the founder and president, Salt and Light Global. William, good to have you back.
Hey, Steve, good to be back again.
All right, so I saw this story. I thought to myself, William's going to like this story. It's the story of the football coach that got thrown out of his job because he had the nerve to take a knee after the football games they would play and pray on the football field. And, of course, he got attacked by all the ninnies. But something really good happened, William. Tell them about it.
Well, this is a lesson for people who care about good governance of their nation. Fight the weaponization of the justice system. It's happening all the time. We see it in so many places. But here's a place where one citizen, a person like you and I, nobody, fancy in the world, but says, I'm not going to stand for our justice system and our legal system being weaponized. And what the government had done here is they literally weaponized the First Amendment. They took that part of the First Amendment that said you can't establish a religious government, and they changed the meaning of it to say you got to have a secular reason for everything you do. And that's why baby Jesus gets kicked out of the public park. And that's why he got, fired basically for taking a knee on a public school football field. And so this guy got up and he had the courage to be fiercely unafraid to stand for the truth. And what he did with compassion and respect and the love of Jesus, this coach took that knee and fiercely stood for truth. And so, of course, he's then fired. It goes all the way up to the Supreme Court. It takes over 7 years. Now, again, when you're fighting the weaponization of the justice system, know that it's not going to take a week or two. This took over 7 years. And this week, or at the end of on Friday Night Lights, we got to see the coach take a knee again because the Supreme Court did the right thing. They finally returned the First Amendment to what it means. You've got a fundamental, unalienable right to the free exercise of your conscience, to the free exercise of your religion. You've got an unalienable right for freedom of expression. And here's the great thing about this. When this coach stood up, it allowed lawyers from all over the country to come behind him, and we were some of them that came behind them, and present to the court an option that cancels the weaponization of the legal system. And the court said, you know what, we ought to return to a place where we say just what the Constitution says. And that's what they did. And in doing so, they said, when we look at the First Amendment, we look at the whole thing together. We look at freedom of religion. We look at the freedom of expression. And we look that you can't establish a religious government. And we read all that together. And when you read all that together, a person's religious expression is doubly protected. And so it was so fun to watch, all these little woke lawyers just kind of have tails between their legs and go home, because most of the time we're on the losing end of the left's attack.
But we've won a lot lately. Coach Joe Kennedy here from Bremerton, which is out in Washington, of course, pretty woke state is the state of Washington, but a fair number of victories here. This one, the cake maker in Colorado. The others, we've seen a fair amount of big wins for the First Amendment, and I think we're going to see more. This is an important resetting of the guidelines of the constitutional principles of this country, right?
That's exactly what's happening. And how beautiful is it that it's happening, this way, with compassion and respect, and love. This guy fiercely was unafraid to take a knee and stand for truth. And when we come at it that way, and we are winning, in the courts because we're winning in the courts because we have a better legal argument. We have the correct and honest and truthful legal argument. It makes it really hard for the other side to come back at you, because you've done it the right way. You've done it with compassion and respect. You've been fiercely unafraid, even in the state of Washington, like you said. That's the place. How hard is it to, take a knee and stand for truth, in a place like that? I can't even imagine.
take a knee, make a stand. That's what the shirts say that Coach Joe Kenny wears. Now, he came back for one game, and then he said, look, I have to resign because he has somebody in his family that's in declining health. So, again, it took 7 years. He moved on with his life, but he stayed with the case. He did the right thing. He broke the trail for those behind him, and God bless him for doing that. There's something else you wanted to add, though. We got about a minute and a half here.
Well, I bet you we haven't seen the last of him. He has a book coming out that tells this story, which will, I think, empower other people to have the courage to not, be bullied by people who are breaking the law. I think he's going to have a movie coming out, from what I hear. And, this is, again, a good thing because, people are going to see, wow, this guy's just like me. And if he had the courage, to not be bullied by somebody who's trying to knock religion out of our nation, knock free speech out of our nation, maybe I should stand up in my classroom too, or maybe I should stand up, in my operating room at a medical facility, or maybe I should stand up at, some other place where the government is coming in and saying, you know what, we don't care about the First Amendment. And so I think you're right. The court has done a reset and has sent a message, to folks out there, either on the left or the right, who would, decide to ignore the Constitution to move their political agenda forward. And so This is a good thing for citizens, and this is a good thing.
It is a good thing. It is a good thing, William.
And
I got to leave it right there, though. How often? Not often enough, but there's more of them. I mean, we've had a few wins here, William. We should just celebrate and enjoy the wins and tell the good news. William Wagner, founder, president, Salt and Light Global. Good stuff, William. Let's go get another one, shall we?
We'll be out there. Next time it's in the Supreme Court, you'll see us there. God bless you, Steve.
All right. God bless you, William Wagner. It is a big win. Another big win for the First Amendment and for religious freedom in America. I'll be right back. mentioned this earlier this week. I'm finally getting to it in some detail. A Maine healthcare provider wants the nurses it fired during the pandemic to come back. In fact, it's begging. Please come back. Maine General in Augusta has reached out to healthcare workers, many of whom were denied unemployment compensation after being fired because they wouldn't take the jab. Former registered nurse Terry Poland, among those, shared the message she received from the employer that booted her. You were once a proud member of the Maine General team. Would you consider rejoining us? We would be pleased to discuss options with you. As you know, nearly 2 years ago, Maine General had to comply with a state mandate for COVID-19 vaccination. We lost a number of great employees as a result, including you. Well, she said she's not interested. Hard times after losing her job. Poland, who made $75,000 a year before being fired, not tempted in the least. She said, no, thank you. No, thank you. Yeah, and now they're trying to jab you with more. Well, what do you make of all that? You know, all right, here's a new partner of ours, the Wellness Company. And I want to share a message from them right now because everyone knows the next medical crisis is just around the corner. Whether it comes from a pandemic or something more mundane like a tick bite, it's on its way. You and your family need to be prepared. That's where the Wellness Company comes in. You know the Wellness Company. We have great doctors like Peter McCullough that comes on this program. The Wellness Company and the doctors there are medical professionals that you can trust, and their new medical emergency kits are the gold standard when it comes to keeping you safe and healthy. Be ready for anything. This medical emergency kit contains an assortment of life-saving medications, including ivermectin and Z-Pak. The medical emergency kit provides a guidebook to aid in the safe use of all of these life-saving medications. From anthrax to tick bites to COVID, and even to a bioweapon like the plague, the Wellness Company's medical emergency kit is exactly what you need to have on hand to be prepared. Rest assured knowing that you have emergency antibiotics, antivirals, and antiparasitics on hand to help keep you and your family safe from whatever the globalists throw at us next. Go to twc.health/Gruber today. twc.health/Gruber. Do that. Check out the Wellness Company, would you please? twc.health/Gruber. All right, we got a lot coming up in the next hour, too. Christina Bobb, attorney for Donald Trump, joining me after the break. I'll be back.
Outside the Beltway with John Fredericks. Talking to Americans outside of Washington. In the heartland. In our cities. And in our communities. About what matters to them. Outside the Beltway with John Fredericks starts now. Big Tech